Hello and welcome to the Hub World podcast. This is our 20th episode. We made it 20. We can make 20 more. We can make 40 more. We can make 60 more.
We can make zero
Um,
more.
uh,
Who knows?
this, yeah. Um, so this is our 20th episode. So we wanted to do a big topic, which is something we've been hyping up for a while, which is the bloodbath of the N64 Essentials. We'll give you a bit of information on what that is in a sec. Before that, we just want to let all um, all our listeners know that this will also be the final episode we will be recording before E3. Um, During E3, we're going to be functioning. We're going to be doing the podcast in a little bit of a different fashion, which again I will talk about in a little bit. But to kick things off, hello, my name is Jules from the Hub World.
I'm Matteo from the Hub World.
I'm Gino.
I'm Adriano.
And I'm Riley.
And welcome all to what we shall call the bloodbath of 1996.
Ding,
Or-
ding, ding,
I don't
ding,
know.
ding.
I don't
Let's
know, is
do it.
96?
Oh.
Okay, so
1996, yeah.
so the N64, just to give some context to our listeners, the N64 was essentially our, like all of us, because all of us are we've been friends for a long time, and
We're in our mid-20s.
yeah, we're in our mid-20s, so N64 was like our childhood console, which means
Yeah.
everybody has very strong nostalgia and opinions on everything that happened.
Mhm.
And adding to that, having five of us in here means that it's going to be even more difficult to determine the essential games. But to give you some context, so in case you missed our last two console essential specials, our for the podcast console essentials, what we do is we determine the five most essential games from a particular system. In this particular episode, we will be doing the Nintendo 64. To determine that those five essential games, we'll go through each of our favorite games and we'll nominate some and tell you a bit about why we think that they're one of the most important games from the system. And you'll get a fairly large list of games. And then from that large list of games, we'll debate and barter and argue and cry and eventually
Maybe
come
even
to
plead.
maybe even plead and come to a decision of which are the five most essential games on that system. Now, to define essential, we we are considering essential for the purpose of this means something we can recommend to you as a gamer to go play now. So it needs to be something that's still somewhat accessible to a reasonable degree. It needs to be something that's unique and important to that system itself. And we also want to promote something called roster diversity, which means that we don't want to just have five RPGs or five platformers or five party games be the essential games. We do want to give you a bit of diversity within our choices. I will be keeping a master list of all the games that we mentioned, so that when we come to the debating process, we'll be able to remember what we chose. But so just to remind everybody, when you nominate a game, it's your responsibility to explain why you think that game is an essential game. Because this is primarily going to be where you're sharing that information. When we get to the debating, that's the point where we're just mostly going to talk about the diversity or what's essential, but we're not going to be advocating for games too much more after this point. But this can be a dialogue as well. Like, it's not just going to be me talking. Share your thoughts on the games that everybody nominates. But to start, I will begin by nominating what I think is one of the most essential games on the N64. I'm going to kick it off with something that I don't think anybody would have expected, and I'm going to kick it off with a racing game that everybody should play. The best racing game on N64, in my opinion. The only one worth playing on N64, in my opinion. And that is Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah.
Diddy Kong Racing is, like, in my opinion, one of the most unique and innovative mascot kart racers. Even now, the idea of having like multiple vehicles that all race on the same tracks is crazy. While the roster wasn't full of a bunch of recognizable characters, it was the start for some characters, like Conker and Banjo both appeared in that game. It started Diddy Kong, who's like a side character. Well, not a side character. He was the main character of the Donkey Kong Countries and on the SNES, but still, like he's not Donkey Kong himself. So it was just this cool, like fun, cute game that featured all these fun little young critters. There were like boss races. There was like an adventure campaign where you drove around an overworld. It was a bit of a collectathon. Like it took the concept of like a mascot racer and made it single player and made it like just so fun and such a blast. And that is my reason for Diddy Kong Racing.
I wanted to add about like Diddy Kong Racing. The adventure mode of that game is so awesome, and it's like one of the only like I'd say AAA kart racing games that has an adventure mode. Like Mario Kart hasn't done it. That idea is so good and it works so well for a kart racer. And I just think it's insane that other kart racers, kart racing franchises haven't done that again.
Yeah,
like it just
I find that's really weird. Also, that it hasn't been done since. Really.
yeah. But anyways, yeah, Diddy Kong Racing is a fantastic game, and I think the single greatest thing Diddy Kong Racing brought to the gaming world, and I'm segueing this into my nomination, is the introduction of one of the N64's mascots, and basically probably my favorite game character of all time, Banjo. And
Yeah.
Banjo Kazooie is my nomination. Banjo Kazooie is my favorite game of all time. I think it's the greatest game of all time. I know that's a unpopular opinion, but it's the greatest 3D platformer of all time. It's the greatest 3D platformer on the N64 by extension. That game is a masterpiece. The soundtrack of that game is incredible. The level design in that game is incredible. The the progression, the difficulty curve in that game is fair, I will say. But I just think like it did Mario 64 better than Mario 64. Rare outdid Nintendo in their own game. And like I don't Banjo Tooie, like I know someone might nominate Banjo Tooie, but like Banjo Kazooie, you can complete the levels. You can enter the level. You don't need to leave if you don't want to. Like the worlds are the perfect size. You get your Jiggy, you move on. It doesn't kick you out like Mario 64 does every time you get a star. You can beat that game in a reasonable amount of time. There's no backtracking. There's no like Rusty Bucket Bay, you pull your hair out in that level because it's difficult, not because it's annoying like some other levels. And I'm making it a Banjo Kazooie versus Tooie thing because I know that's what's going to end up being. But like I said, Banjo Kazooie, I cannot say enough good things about it. That game, it's a masterpiece. And if anyone else has anything to add to it, like I love this game so much, I will cry if it's not on the list.
I guess this is where I will have to say my favorite platformer on the N64. It has to be Mario 64. It was the first. It was the first true 3D game. Mario 64 allowed you to freely change your camera around. You were able to go jump, punch, kick, fly, sink, turn invisible, do all that. Like it was a great game. It was Mario's first venture into the third dimension, and like the music in that world is great. The concept is fun. You're going through Peach's castle, Bowser's taken over, and you jump through the paintings and enter the worlds. Through that, the power-ups, while there's only 3 of them, are memorable. There's a lot of really fun worlds, lot of really fun music. It's a very well put together game, albeit with the Nintendo Switch remakes, things were a little bit tricky, and like a lot of people say the game hasn't aged well. But like even in the competitive side of like speedrunning in video games, Mario 64 is still like a classic, and it's just like I got a lot of nostalgia for that game, and going around getting all the coins, getting all the stars is like it is a test of skill because you have to maneuver this 3D world with what limited resources you have in terms of some controls, and there's an air of challenge and an air of nostalgia to it, and I just love that game. Honestly, Mario 64 is my pick for a platformer, Matteo. As much as I agree Banjo-Kazooie does it better, Banjo-Kazooie doesn't exist if Mario 64 didn't change Rare's mind.
Adriano, do you have a nomination for N64?
Yeah, but just to be clear, do we just nominate one game or?
No,
we take
We
turns.
take
we
turns.
keep
Ah,
going
okay,
until we have a
okay,
list.
good. Okay, yeah, because I have a few that were actually already mentioned. So I guess my nation that's a bit different than what I've heard so far. Let me. So we had to explain every single nomination, but generally the way I chose my list was that I tried to avoid games that have been remade or ported because you could play it on a platform in a little better quality. For example, I would definitely recommend Super Mario 64 if it wasn't ported to the Switch, where you could get it cheaper and in HD quality, right? Legitly, not through ROMs or anything. So that really affected my list. I picked games that are very unique to N64 that you can't play on any other console. They're exclusive, and they offer a unique gameplay that you probably wouldn't find on other consoles either, or in other games either. So mine, um, there are similar games like it. It is similar to Mario Kart. It is similar to Diddy Kong Racing, probably other racing games, but it's Snowboard Kids too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I have the game. I played it many times as a kid, and I played it recently again because I wanted to 100% it. And yeah, it's so unique because it's snowboarding. The characters look really different. My my fiance really does not like the design of them. She thinks the noses are way too big. But yeah, it's really unique. You unlock a lot of content, so there's a lot of single player stuff you can do, and it's pretty fun multiplayer. Yeah, and it's quite a long game too. There's so many like board designs, boards in general. There's a board that has a rocket and wings on it called the Dragon Board. The last one you unlock is just cool, and the music and the stages are just incredible. So yeah, that's my first nomination. You can't get that game on any other console. You can get it in Japan on PS version 1.5. But yeah, it's not the same.
Thanks for that, Adriano. I'm glad somebody mentioned Snowboard Kids because I haven't played it enough
Oh yeah,
to feel comfortable recommending it, but
yeah,
I do think it's a really cool game.
yeah.
So, Riley, do you have
Yes.
a nomination for Nintendo
See, I'm
64?
debating what order I want because I have a few off the top of my head. I think I might want to segue because something that Adriano mentioned about remakes and the like and his reason for
Hmm.
not wanting to do that. I feel like I have something that can naturally segue into that, but I also might kind of want to save that for later. I don't know.
Did you
Save it.
save it for whenever you want? You do you.
We'll come back to that. The whole remake porting thing after, I guess. The one I want to bring up now, it's going to be not controversial. I don't think it's going to cause any fights. Is Mario Party 3.
Thank you. You
Yeah.
can't talk. You can't talk N64 without talking about Mario Party.
Exactly. And I know some people are very big fans of 2, and 2 is fantastic. I won't deny that, but 2 doesn't have Waluigi, so gonna have to go with 3 on that one. As classic as 2 is, I think 3 has the better mini games. It might not have better stages, but I think its mini games have a lot more variety. They're a lot more fun. Like
Hmm.
with the 3 mini games, I can actually go into the mini game mode and just play them, whereas in 2, I don't think I'd ever do that. 2 requires the context of playing in the board game, like in the actual party mode, to have fun with the mini games.
I think Mario Party 3 also had like a collection of like some of the better mini games of the other ones on there. I think that's why we all like remember that game more fondly.
We also just
I think,
played that more.
That's true.
well, you're thinking Mario Party 2, Gino. Mario Party 2
Yeah.
had Mario Party 1 mini games in it, like the best Mario Party 1 mini games.
I think we're talking too much about Mario Party 2 and the Mario Party 3.
Yeah, I think we should yes, I agree. We should talk
Yeah.
more Mario Party 3.
I also think just Mario Party in general is like a quintessential party game. I don't think friendships could be destroyed quite as thoroughly as through a bad Mario Party game as with other party games, and I think that's a sign of a good party game.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's like a
I'll
game
give
of
you
Monopoly.
that,
It's
yeah.
classic because
It's like
it
a
makes you hate
game
your
of
friends forever.
Riskopoly. It's like a game
talk
of
about that.
Riskopoly.
Yeah, risk off.
I'll never forgive you.
Well, our friendship
One
hasn't
day.
broken yet.
I don't know. I think I really pissed Yako off in that Mario Party game we played at Giuliano's house before like the lockdown
The
happened for
pandemic?
us. Yeah. Where like
Tell the story.
I purposely threw the last mini game of the game to make or as a hope that I win the mini game star, the coin star. And if I didn't throw that game, he would have won. And he is
There was
still to
more
this
than
day.
just that.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing he didn't like. But that was like that may have been the greatest game of Mario Party ever played.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyways,
And
so
and to talk about that, like we've had quite a few good Mario Party days. I remember that exact same scenario happened one day at Riley's. And there may have been some rage quitting and shutting off of the console.
I wonder who could have done that.
I wonder. But anyway, I think this just proves how much fun we and how connected we are to Mario Party.
mhm.
Yeah.
We have so many stories, right?
I didn't put Mario Party on mine because there's Mario Party on the Switch now, and I don't know if someone just buying an N64 today would want to buy Mario Party 3 to play with friends. I don't know.
I mean, maybe that is true because they might end up throwing their N64 out a window afterwards. But before that, it's fun. It's very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And at
will
the same
agree.
time, like as much as yes, there is Mario Party on the Switch, the thing is, Mario Party has never been as good as it was on the
That's very
N64. So that's something
Yeah.
to just consider.
I don't know. I think we're a little biased because we're enthusiasts, but I think someone just buying an N64 right now, I don't know if I'd recommend that, but that's just me.
That's fair. Okay, now this is a game I'm going to nominate, fully realizing that while I think it deserves to be mentioned for the sake of this list, and while I certainly, if I was creating the list of 5, I would fight for it, but I'm also going to precurse this that I most likely will not fight to the death on this one being on the list, just because when we consider the essentials, I do think this game has been one-upped by its follow-up, but it still deserves to be mentioned, which is Paper Mario. Paper Mario is probably one of my favorite games on the N64 period. The first 2 Paper Mario games are 2 of my favorite games of all time. And in terms of just sheer like uniqueness and just like charm and gameplay diversity, like Paper Mario, such a breath of fresh air for the Mario series. Expanding on the world, like adding in new lore, giving a lot of characters who previously didn't really have voices that turn to have a voice, including like RPG elements. While they were somewhat casual, like they were still fun and it was like a puzzle game. The art direction was awesome, and still like going back and playing the first Paper Mario now, it doesn't really look bad. Like that art style doesn't really age.
It definitely
Like of
holds
course,
up. Not
it
many
like and
N64 games do, honestly, but Paper
yeah.
Mario is one of them.
And that's the thing is like it looks like I can still go back and play that game now, and it does not feel like I'm playing a game from a past generation because the art style lends itself to like it doesn't visually look like it's age, and mechanically it's still really sound
Yeah.
and it's still a really good game. So like I would feel wrong if I didn't mention Paper Mario. Paper Mario is such an important game to me, and it's such an incredible N64 experience.
Yeah.
Now,
Yep. Yeah, Paper Mario was
Oh.
actually going to be my next one if you didn't mention it this time around, Jules. And, yeah.
And another good,
Stole
like
it
this
from
is
you.
another thing. Like Paper Mario made it on my short list also, and this is the thing I'm considering is that I think like the N64 only like had an insanely small amount of RPGs, and Paper Mario is probably the best RPG on the system. Like it's almost by
Yeah.
default, but Nintendo was the king of RPGs in the SNES era, and when the PlayStation 1 came out, PlayStation like basically took all the RPG franchises, and Paper Mario was like the only one Nintendo had. But Paper Mario, I
Yep.
don't think is an unpopular decision, Jules. I legitimately think like it's in contention to be on my short list at very least. But my pick, geez, what do I pick? I was gonna say Mario Party 2, but Riley picked Mario Party 3.
No
But
bottom list.
Well, you can still say 2
You
and
can
then
still
make a
say
valid case
2, and
for
then
it,
we can,
right?
yeah, we
but
can.
that's the thing. Like Mario Party 2 for all the reasons, but I don't want to waste my a nomination on it right now, at least. But I think the next big one I'm gonna hit is uh another of my top favorite games of all time. My favorite Zelda game of all time.
Here it
At one
comes.
point, it could
Here
be
it comes.
argued to be another one of the greatest games of all time, and that is Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I said time a lot in that sentence, but I can't stress
Thought
enough.
Wind Waker was your favorite.
No. I used to go back and forth, but like in the last 5 years, after playing Breath of the Wild and Wind Waker HD, and just like going in Ocarina of Time 3D like 2 more times, it is cemented in my being now that Ocarina of Time is my favorite Zelda game. That game is a timeless classic.
There's that word
It is
again.
exactly, and like, and this is the thing. Like Banjo Kazooie and Ocarina of Time, they're like they had very minimal refreshes on other platforms, and those games are still as good as they were when they first came out. Like it only helps those games out that those games are on those other platforms. Like the N64, in a way, like I think the library of the N64 is so vast, and like the first party at least, and like Ocarina of Time is probably the leader of the pack in that. Like that game, that was the Nintendo game. Mario 64 was the Nintendo game before, but Ocarina of Time, that was the game everyone anticipated when it came out. No, everyone's like, call me when Zelda's out. Like that game was just as revolutionary as Mario 64 was for the 3D adventure game. The the music in that game is incredible. The dungeons in that game are fantastic as well. Like the whole like the characterization of Hyrule, the time traveling, like that game, it's to today, it's still as epic as it was back in 1998. The Ganondorf is a fantastic villain.
And
Like
how it basically cemented like the lore of the game, right? Like
yeah,
it's like A Link to the Past
every
set a
Zelda
lot of
game,
stuff up.
basically
Ocarina, yeah.
yeah, every Zelda game that came out before Breath of the Wild tried to imitate Ocarina of Time in some way, to varying degrees of success.
Yeah,
Like
one of them
that was
literally copied and pasted resources.
like though
Okay, let's not start
that's irrelevant, Gino.
ridiculous fighting
That's
words.
irrelevant. But like Ocarina of Time is still it's still the benchmark, I think, for that style of Zelda game, because like Breath of the Wild is now going to take the series in a different direction, and you have the 2D Zeldas. There's I think now 3 branches of Zelda, and Ocarina of Time's like I don't know how would you explain it, Jules? Like it's just the it's like a linear 3D Zelda game. I think Ocarina of Time is still the best in that, and I talking about it now makes me want to replay it. Like I absolutely adore this game, and I just think it's another game I think it absolutely cannot be ignored.
Yeah, and if you want it in 3D, you can play it in 3D on the 3DS.
Yeah, but it's
See,
a
that's
it's
go
a
ahead,
We
small
can
Gino.
talk about
screen.
that later.
It's a small screen. You want to play that game on your TV.
I think the important thing, like I think we could talk about this later when we deliberate, but I think the important thing that Matteo kind of hit on the head was that most like some updated games, the optimal way to play is the updated game, but Mateo's not wrong. Like other than like the
There's still
visuals are a
Nintendo
little better.
64 games.
Yeah, like even though the visuals are a little bit better on the 3DS, like ultimately like the N64 versions of the game are just as good as the remakes are. Like there's nothing really that's bad. It's not like they boosted like the frame rate or they like changed the controls or like updated it in any significant way other than adding in the master edition, master mode.
I will say,
Master
I will
Quest,
give
sorry.
this to Ocarina of Time 3D. They made the iron boots an equipable item, which made Water Temple
Yeah, it's
just
quality
that
of
much more
life stuff.
Yeah,
Quality of life stuff's been improved because like Banjo Kazooie had quality of life stuff improved also, and so did Banjo Tooie and Majora's Mask 3D. But like, I would identify all those games still as Nintendo 64 games.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Sometimes a quality of life, sometimes something that people think is a quality of life change actually takes away from the game and its vision.
I'm excited to hear Riley talk about that coming up, but we're gonna have to go to Gino before we get there.
honestly, like I was gonna say Ocarina of Time. I was gonna say Paper Mario. Oh gosh, this one. I already mentioned I already mentioned Mario 64. Sorry. Honestly, like what other like N64 games would I definitely? Oh, here's one. The final rare game on N64
I think
is definitely a charmer. I think it was Nintendo's first M-rated game
Yep.
from like a studio that made a lot of their beloved franchises, and it took a significant left turn in the middle of development, and that is Conker's Bad Fur Day. Didn't sell all too well because it came out right at the very end of this the Nintendo 64's lifespan, and especially being an M-rated game that looks super cutesy and cuddly, probably didn't do too much for like parents of young kids that grew up with Banjo-Kazooie and Diddy Kong Racing, and they're like, hey, here's the studio that I trust, and oh my god, what have they done? Why is there a giant poop monster? Why is the Terminator a bale of hay?
I feel like you're giving random like casual moms way too much credit. I doubt that they realized that Rare was the same studio that made their cutesy
Yep.
games.
Hey, I like to think in my head that parents actually
We're
know
appalled.
a little bit about video games, and they're not just buying their kid the first thing that says I need this skin or I need
Oh,
this video game or
I
whatever. I
remember
like to
some
give them a
kids
little bit
playing
more credit
Untitled
for that.
Chapter's Bad Fur Day
Yeah,
at
Bad Fur Day.
Blockbuster.
Yeah, Bad Fur Day was like also one of those like classic N64 games that me and Adriano had a lot of really fun playing and like bonding over when we were growing up. It was just all it was a really meta game too. Like it took a lot of like references and stuff from different movies. Like Alien was in there, Saving Private Ryan was in there, like a bunch of really cool, like The Matrix. They had a bunch of like meta like references to different things. It was kind of like if Rick and Morty was a video game before Rick and Morty, or if like Family Guy's cutaway jokes existed in the form of a video game. It was hilarious from beginning to end. And again, like just the humor was great. Definitely Rare, like firing on all cylinders. Albeit some of the gameplay was a little bit clunky, but it more than made up for it with like just the charm and world building of like Conker the Squirrel. Hi, I'm Conker.
Gino,
And
Yeah, please
Just
stop with
before
your
you-
Conker impression, by the
just
way.
before you end with Conker's Bad Fur Day, I just would like to tell our viewers that Nintendo actually did not publish Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Oh,
Really?
really?
They chose not to publish that game. So, like that's one of the reasons why people say like that's one of the things that happened to lead to the Rare sale. Like that's one of the dominoes that fell. But that is a story for another time.
All right. Well, I also nominate Conker's Bad Fur Day. There's so many here that have already been said, but my reason being all the same reasons that Gino mentioned. Um, and the music's pretty unique too. But also, there was a port for it on Xbox 360, but that's hard to come by these days. And also, it was worse. Like the graphics were better, but they got rid of
That
like the
wasn't.
part.
I wouldn't
There's no
even
story
classify
there.
that as a port, Adriano. That was
What?
straight up like Live and Reloaded
Yeah.
was an attempted remake, but and yeah, it's not as good. It's nowhere near as good. Like they censored the game too, like the swearing and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, they got rid
But
of it.
there is a version that is out on Rare Replay on the Xbox family, Xbox One and Xbox Series X. It might even be on PC now, but it's the port of the N64 version.
Oh, really? There's a port of
That's
it
the
out now?
first. Yeah, on Rare Replay. There is a
Okay.
easier way to play it. Like you don't have to shell out like 120
Yeah.
bucks for Conker's Bad Fur Day or like $80 for Live and Reloaded. But
Okay. So
It
there
is
is a
true.
port. So there is a new port of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that you can
there
play
is
on
there is
PC.
an official
Okay.
way.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Would you like to change my answer then? There is one game that's very unique to N64, and I'm in a group of like N64 enthusiasts, and a lot of people like, take pictures of the collection, and I've noticed a lot of these collections have the same games, and it is for a reason. So one of them, I guess, would be Blast Corps. It's a very
Blast Corps.
unknown game. Um, and basically, I had it as a kid. I didn't understand
Also
what to
made by
do.
Rare.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't understand what to do at the time, but now I get it. It's like there's a truck that's passing by cities, and it's like it's got explosives and stuff in it, and it's
You're
on
supposed to ram the
tracks,
truck.
and you have to like destroy, I guess, the city around it to make sure that the truck doesn't collide with anything.
I
And
played
you
that
use
game
all sorts
wrong
of
for years
different.
apparently because I
Me
thought the objective
too. Oh
was to
my
nuke the
goodness.
cities.
Me too. I didn't know what the objective was. But yeah, you play in different machines, just destroying things, and it's pretty interesting. And it's only for N64. Blast Corps.
But
The rare.
Blast Corps, Adriano, Blast Corps
Yeah.
also on Rare Replay.
What?
You're just
Yep.
ruining Adriano's
Oh my
night.
god! Okay,
No,
then
I'm
I'm
just
gonna
helping
change
him
my
out.
answer.
I'm telling him if you really want to play these games, like especially the rare, most of the Rare N64 catalog,
Yeah.
except for like GoldenEye and Donkey Kong 64, because of
Right.
licensing reasons, you can play them on Rare Replay.
That was the segue I was
And
going to use, Matteo. Damn it.
Riley, you
and
take.
You take
and
go.
and these games you can play on PC. It's not just like Xbox or Xbox One. They're very available.
I think
No,
it is Xbox.
Yeah.
I'll have to. Oh, let me double check. Let me check for you.
I believe it's just Xbox, but still,
Uh,
even so, I think for the sake of the essentials list, I think we would categorize something like that as generally available.
okay.
Mhm.
Well, if it's only
We're
on
more,
Xbox, Xbox is quite expensive. But if it's available on PC,
yeah.
then anyone can
I
do
think
it.
Dude, just get an
yeah.
Xbox One.
Is it on
Just
Game
get the
Pass?
Xbox Series S.
It's
and
on
get
Game
Games
Pass.
Pass.
Well, there you go.
I
Then you can play
think
for the low price of what is it on the Xbox?
$1.
15
Yeah.
bucks.
Well, I think when we're talking about like availability, we're more looking for something like that maybe hasn't been re-released at all, or something that for some reason is no longer like viable, like something like Duck Hunt when we did NES. But I think if it's generally like if there's a re-release on some console, we
But I
can
also don't think that
consider
availability should be
recommending.
the be all end all for what we nominate.
It isn't. I think it
Yeah.
only is. It's only a factor if the thing is very unavailable. Like in the case of
Okay.
like Duck Hunt, where it's like literally
you
like
need a piece of
you would need to
technology.
buy you would need to buy a CRT TV and find a zapper and have an NES. Like I think like that's where we're looking at
The
availability.
Zapper isn't hard to find. It's the other ones. Well, actually, not.
Yeah.
Even getting an
Okay.
NES isn't that bad nowadays.
Well, my
It's more
official answer
CRT.
then, I won't explain it. Just Mischief Makers.
Ooh, that's a good choice.
All right.
Mischief Makers.
So wait, are you still nominating Blast Corps?
No. Since you can get it for what do you say, $1 on PC or something, then
No, on Xbox Game Pass. You can get it through Rare Replay.
okay. But Xbox is like hundreds of dollars. N64 is cheaper. Anyways, whatever. I'll change it to Mischief Makers. You can only get that on N64. But yeah, it is in many people's collection. It's iconic. It's got mechanics. It uses the D-pad of all controls on the N64. And,
Is that like one of like the only games that does that besides Kirby?
Yeah, and it's
Oh,
just
there's
got
another.
interesting mechanics of
Oh,
like
there's another
shaping
one.
things, and doing things. Yeah.
You're
All
missing
right.
the other one, Gino. I don't think it'll get nominated, so I'll mention it. The other one that uses the D-pad is the Pokemon Stadium games.
I was just about to say that, Jules.
Riley,
Are you
Well, I
take it
was
gonna
going to
away.
nominate
nominate
it?
that one, but yeah.
Really?
I was going to mention Pokemon Stadium at some point. I wasn't going to nominate that now, but I was going to think of doing that for
Oh,
one.
okay. I assumed because I mean it doesn't need to be this way. Just before you speak, Riley, it doesn't need to be this way. We can go above 3 nominations each, but I was thinking
Oh.
if we do 3 each, we're already going to have a pretty hefty list. But we can go more if we'd like. We can
Okay,
mention
because I'm not. This is one that I wasn't going to go all in for as much as I like it, but I feel like it
Okay,
needs to
you
be
can
mentioned.
mention it. No, go ahead. We can go
Yeah,
above
so
15.
I think Goldeneye just kind of required to play, even if it's not going to be on this essential list. I think it's required playing just because it and Halo basically set the template for console shooters forever.
Well, do you want to just mention it and not nominate it?
Here's the thing: it definitely feels its age, but it's also like it's so sacred to so many people. And
True, but if you were to tell a gamer nowadays, so like if you met some youngin and you're like, like go to N64, you got to try these games. How do you feel about recommending a game like GoldenEye?
okay, yeah.
When that genre is in general, that genre has evolved to a point where GoldenEye has become
Yeah.
very much a relic of its time.
Yeah, that's why I didn't include it in mine.
I mean, I think it's still really fun multiplayer, but yeah, I can see your point.
Yeah, it is, and honestly, like you can really feel like not having that second joystick. But then again, this is more deliberation stuff, not nomination stuff.
Yeah.
Another fantastic game made by Rare.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. That's why I was gonna say that's one of the few that you can't. That and Donkey Kong 64 are both great games that you can't play through Rare Replay.
Okay. We
And
will.
I'd actually argue that Donkey Kong 64 is the best 3D platformer on
Oh
N64, but we can
my!
save that for another time.
Oh
So
my!
what, Jules?
No, I don't have an opinion. I'm just adding to the.
I do, but I will keep it to myself.
Anyway,
Um,
Riley, say one of the next 2 that I know you're gonna say at some point.
the next two that I was gonna say at some point, because I might have more than that. But here's one that maybe you didn't think I was gonna say, because I don't know if anyone's gonna say it if I don't, which is Star Fox 64.
I was going to say that, Riley, but you could
That
say
is the
it.
one I was expecting you to say. So
It is
let's
one.
hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
You should talk about this. You deserve to talk about this game
why? Because it's the
because
only
you
good
love
Star
this
Fox
game.
game I have.
No, continue. Keep talking.
So for those of you who don't know, Star Fox is a game where you basically take the role of a anthropomorphic space fighter pilot. It's an on-rail shooter,
The game
and
that Nintendo once used to make.
yeah, it's a series that Nintendo's probably going to drop after its Wii U performance. And
What are you talking about? That game sold amazingly well. It paid for so
But-
many Switches.
yeah, it sold amazingly well with our friend group because you'd buy the game and then immediately you buy it at one store and then trade it back at EB because that had higher value than what you paid for it.
Shh.
We don't talk about that.
It's so hard to talk about Star Fox 64 because I don't know how much of it is it being just genuinely fun, how much is nostalgia for me. But it's a game I play. It's very short, so I played through it easily over 200 times in my childhood. Like it's a game you can get. Here's a way to describe it. It's like playing an arcade game but at home, but with better production values. And there's so many different branching paths. You can play through it so many different ways. You can. I think there's trying. I don't feel like doing the actual.
It
math
had voice
but
acting.
It did have full voice acting, which was a vast improvement over the SNES version. Also, the SNES version, as fun as it is, I mean, let's be real, it doesn't look the best. That art style, I don't think really works for the game it was. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want bad talk Star Fox 1 too much, but Star Fox 64 had full voice acting. It spawned so many iconic lines like do a barrel roll,
Use bombs wisely.
use bombs wisely,
My emperor,
use the boost to
I
get through.
fail you.
Can't let you do that, Star Fox.
Uncle Antrox.
I was legitimately also going to nominate Star Fox 64 because, like,
Me too.
if we're looking at the series as a whole, the Star
It's the
Fox series,
highlight
and
of
I
it.
think I don't know, we used this in our other previous Essential videos where we looked at a series as a whole and we're like, has the series ever been as good as it was at this point? And I think Star Fox 64 is by far, and forgive me for saying this, Jules, Star Fox 64 Star Fox has never been better than it was on N64. Like Star Fox 64, Nintendo keeps trying to go back to making that game and they can't do it. Like that game,
Or hot take. They have done it multiple times, and the reason it's failed is because the game wasn't that good to begin with. And
No,
then you're
Star
making
Fox 6
Star Fox.
adventures.
I think there's- I don't know.
Star
I
Fox
think
64 also was the first. It may have been the first video game period, but I know for sure it was the first Nintendo game to have Rumble. It came bundled in with the Rumble pack, and the Rumble pack on the N64 is not that great, but at the time, that was like cutting edge for video games. So I thought that's also worth mentioning that. But also like Star Fox 64 had cool multiplayer mode that I
don't
think
know
is
about that
really.
one.
I think it's underappreciated, to be honest with you. Like in
I
the
think
era,
it's very
in the
bare
era,
bones.
it hasn't aged well, but I think at the time it was also really good.
I don't know about that one.
But like
I'll leave
also,
that as an open item.
and another thing with like what we talked about with I talked about Banjo-Kazooie and Ocarina of Time. Star Fox 64 got a glow up, as the youngins say, on 3DS. Star Fox 64 3D really made that game, like it really refined that game in a really nice way.
Kart got remade. Yeah.
So,
I forgot about
but
that.
like
It does look very nice.
yeah, that
The only sad
and-
thing is they changed the voice actors.
yeah, that's the only down thing.
Also,
downgrade,
gyroscopic
but
controls suck.
yeah, but you can turn them off.
Okay, so yeah, Star Fox, very good game, very fun, very replayable. Has great voice acting. Pretty good visuals. Something you can just sit down and play through in a single session, which is always nice. And if you like it, you can always replay it. It's usually pretty available and it's cheap.
So I think I'm falling, for me at least, I'm falling into games that I'm going to mention, but I don't necessarily know if I'm going to fight. Actually, no. I know a game that I'm going to fight for that has not been mentioned. To open up a can of worms that was opened before, but now shall be opened from the other side. Banjo-Tooie,
Hell yeah!
the greatest Banjo-Kazooie game
Hell yeah!
that improved on nearly every capacity from the first game.
And did it at
Banjo-Kazooie
the
was
same time.
an amazing game, and Banjo-Tooie was an even better one. Worlds were bigger, characters were way more interesting, story was more
Multiplayer.
epic, multiplayer.
Had
You could
bosses
split
at every
up-
level.
Oh yeah, the bosses. Oh, don't get me started. Transformations in every level too, and a lot of them were actually useful and actually had their own like attacks and stuff. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about Banjo-Kazooie. I really love Banjo-Kazooie as well, which is a testament to why I like Banjo-Tooie so much. My personal belief is that Banjo-Tooie is the stronger of the two. If I'm going to go back and play a Banjo game, I'm going to play Banjo-Tooie. But I will leave any more talk about comparisons between Kazooie and Tooie for the inevitable battle during the deliberation. And I think we should move on.
I'm gonna be ready. So I guess it's my turn then, right?
Yeah.
Jeez. So as we've mentioned, the N60 multiplayer on the N64 was like, that was the thing. Like that was the main draw of the game, of the console, because like the N64 I think was the first console to have 4 controller ports. We've talked about Mario Party. We've talked about Diddy Kong Racing, but another major Nintendo series or series of Nintendo series really hit its stride on the N64, and that's Mario Sports. And in my opinion, the best Mario Sports game, not counting Mario Kart, on the Nintendo 64 is Mario Tennis.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Wasn't the only other game Mario Golf?
Yep.
Yeah. I think
Mario
that
Kart also
this
counts.
version is superior to the other ones we've gotten.
Like, and I know Mario Tennis can arguably be said that it's been better on future and Nintendo consoles, but I'd argue that in all honesty.
Yeah,
maybe
it's a
aside
debate.
from
It's a
maybe
debate, at
aside
least.
from Mario Tennis Aces, but like I think the pure tennis gameplay is the thing that Nintendo should be marketing most in Mario Tennis. Not any of these star shots or the offensive and defensive abilities you have in Mario Power Tennis. Like those are fine and dandy, but like if I had the choice, I would rather turn those off. And Mario Tennis 64, in a way, like that is it feels better playing Mario. Like it feels the tennis in that game just feels better than the other games.
Yeah.
Not to mention, it was the first game that Waluigi ever appeared in.
Yeah.
And we said this in the Mario Tennis or the Mario Sports podcast that we did,
which was our last episode,
earlier.
which you should go check out.
Yes.
I
But
totally
another
totally
festive
but
plug.
like we also mentioned, like that game, I know, like I guess we should be talking about these games and the features that are available on the cartridge when you buy the game. But like that game, it utilized the N64 Game Boy Color transfer pack in an awesome way, where you could import your characters from the Game Boy Color Mario Tennis. That was really cool.
Yeah,
And
I
like
did that.
We
there
mentioned
was
this
the
last time. Also,
Yeah.
Adriano's characters are still on our N64 cartridge and are
Yeah.
still broken as.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, and like
It's frustrating
And-
how good they are.
yeah, and just like having all the different player types, like power, tricky, like that's a really awesome way to differentiate the cast. And the cast of that game is actually fairly big, in all honesty. And I think it's the last time Donkey Kong Jr.'s been playable in a Mario game or a Nintendo game, like
Yeah.
aside from like
Mario Kart on
re-releases
phone.
of. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, but like, that literally just came out. Like he was there like last year, I think, or 2 years ago, whatever. But Mario Tennis 64, I think, it's definitely worth shouting out the Mario sports games. And I know it probably won't make the list, but this is like, if this is gonna be my last nomination, I would feel guilty if I didn't mention Mario Tennis 64.
Yeah.
So
And know what? Like, and I am, as somebody who really loves Mario Tennis, and as somebody who doesn't think Mario Tennis N64 is the best one, I do agree with you that I think this one's worth mentioning, because I do think Mario Tennis as a series, definitely there's way more there to argue that Mario Tennis on N64 is just as good as some of the later games than there is for, say, Mario Golf, because Mario Golf has clearly been improved on since N64.
And that's not to like take away from the modern Mario Tennis games. Like for instance, Matteo and I played a lot of Tennis Aces, and we just turned off all the features, and the tennis gameplay of Aces is still really good.
Yep.
But that's neither here nor there for this discussion. I would
Yeah.
also like to nominate another Mario game, and I don't think this one has been said yet. Outside of Giuliano's opening statement about Diddy Kong racing, I would like to nominate the other Nintendo kart racer, the first in the kart racer kind of genre. It wasn't Super Mario Kart from the Super Nintendo, but just simply called Mario Kart 64. This game was one of the pivotal like 4-player couch co-op multiplayer games that I remember playing, as well as it was just good fun. It was one game that I could actually like sit down with my entire family and we could all play this game, whether it be my cousins or my dad, who was like really good at the game, and my older cousins who were just as good at the game. All of us could play this game and have fun together, and it was an even playing field. The introduction of like the blue shell would, as angry as it made a lot of us who were just like clear-cut winners in first place, you could actually like if you were using it in the 4-player modes and all that kind of stuff, right? You could actually use it to like slow that person in first place down, and then the rest of the items and stuff would keep you going and keep you in the race, and you'd always be in the race, and it was always interesting. The music was great. shout out to Royal Wasteway. Still probably one of the best tracks in the series, as well as the original the N64 Rainbow Road. That race was a slog. It was a real test of just your skills as well as playing the long game. Do you want to use your items in quick succession, or do you want to hold on to them because the next item block won't be for another little while? So you had to really strategize, especially in that one. The battle mode in that game was amazing and really, really fun. And even when you were out of the game, the battle mode still let you play as a bomb-omb. So you had one final hurrah to screw over one of your friends that have taken you out after your balloons kind of all expired in the battle mode. All four of
forgot
the
about
battle
that.
mode maps were really fun.
Yeah, I
and
forgot about that too.
They never let you play as the bomb. Even though you lost the game, you could still change the game with that. And it was just I found that game was just really fun. And Mario Kart 64, as much as I love Diddy Kong Racing, and I know how good that game is, Mario Kart 64 is something about it.
But Adriano, do you have another?
Yeah, okay. So I'm trying to avoid the ones that were already said. This one I actually have not played it. I've always meant to play it. Because I know you really can't find it anywhere else. Donkey Kong 64.
You haven't played
Yeah.
DK64?
Not yet. And I want to play Banjo too. I've 100% in Banjo Kazooie, but
Because you
yeah.
can.
yeah, Donkey Kong
I mean,
64.
Yeah.
I played some multiplayer of it.
Yes, the multiplayer
DK64 multiplayer is amazing.
and the arena multiplayer.
I will give that to Donkey Kong 64.
Okay, we
It's
should
really
talk.
fun.
Everybody likes to credit the GoldenEye 007 as the dawn of the shooting genre, but let's be real. Banjo-Tooie and Donkey Kong 64 single-handedly created first-person and third-person shooters.
No.
Banjo-Tooie's first-person shooting is
Just like Minecraft
not good.
created YouTube. Throwback to the first episode.
Good old Gino.
I'm sorry, Gino.
Riley, I know
Honestly-
you're a big fan of Donkey Kong 64.
I am, yes.
So-
I much like it.
This will kind of be like 2 nominations in a row for you.
Yeah,
So-
I mind it.
Yeah.
I ain't complaining.
Yeah, DK64 is a fun one. I almost I was going for 100% of that game, and I got to I think the second last world, and what game came out, and I got distracted and couldn't finish.
No, that's not what happened, Gino. The N64 froze. Like, you pulled the controller too hard and it froze and you didn't save. So, and you progressed a lot in that day. You're just like, screw it, I can't do it again. It's too much.
I think I had completed all of the Crystal Caverns, and then I
Yeah.
had to go back and do it all over again. I'm like, yeah, not happening.
Yeah.
My hours.
But if that's all anyone wants to add to Donkey Kong 64, I'd just like to give a shout out to Chunky.
Yeah,
Yep.
Nintendo,
hey,
please
We do it.
bring Chunky back,
yeah.
please.
We need
Even
Chucky.
Nintendo can't revive the dead,
I
which is why
also-
F-Zero
Sorry,
hasn't had a
I
new
did
game.
want to talk about Donkey Kong 64. My
Okay.
bad, I was distracted momentarily. So what I like about it, and I feel like this is what people don't like, is just the sheer amount of collectibles in that game. I feel like there's always something to do. It's hard to exhaust. It's hard to 100% that game.
Yeah,
It's very
you're
hard.
not wrong.
And I think the
That's
fact
just so fun.
the fact that there's basically each course is divided into 5 to support each of the different Kongs, I think it makes it pretty cool. It's almost like 5 games in one.
And let's not forget the DK rap and all of the amazing songs on YouTube. The audio clips from that DK rap has given us, such as,
The Sephiroth.
such as what's it called? DK
Bohemian
Rhapsody.
DK
But
Rhapsody.
what's it called? Is it called DK Rhapsody? I feel like it's
Yeah,
called
DK
something else.
Rhapsody.
There's DK Me to Life is another good one,
What
or
about the coconut gun rap?
Coconut Gun Rap, DK Sephiroth song,
Oh, that one's the
DK
One
Winged
Kong is
Angel.
the best one.
One Wing Kong. So check out all those nice, awesome songs using DK
Yep.
audio.
Oh, the rage quitting at DK6 at the original Donkey Kong game in the arcade version.
Oh
It's
god.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I'm gonna be
The
full
rage
disclosure.
quit.
I was always really bad at that. For years, I couldn't do it ever since I was a kid, and then I needed Jules to do it eventually.
It was
I don't
that,
recall, but okay.
that was really difficult.
Yeah, Jules, I had never beat like I've collected most of the things, but I could never get to K. Rool because I couldn't beat that until like 5-6 years ago when you did it for me.
I
Yeah.
refused
really
to
bad at
progress
Donkey
past
Kong.
that point until I did it, and I was there for like a good hour.
Good thing
Mateo
the
watched
system
me
didn't
suffer.
freeze. Good thing the system didn't freeze when you did that part, Gino.
Oh, that would have been like
You're able to
that would have been
save
like
at least.
Oh, sorry. There's another thing I want to say is it's another reason why it's better than Kazooie is because it has a boss in every level.
fun little fact. DK64 had levels that were originally planned for Banjo-Kazooie in it.
Yep.
Yep.
Well,
Mateo,
that's
please
true.
tell the lovely audience at home what these levels are, because this is your kind of
I'm
your
pretty
thing.
sure. I don't know off the top of my head. I know Fungi Forest was one of them, but
I feel
yeah.
I feel like this episode has gone from N64 Essentials to listen to everything about every N64 game we've ever played. But I'm low key vibing with it. I really
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
This is a good topic.
I would
It
like
is
to
a good-
pass the. I would like to throw something out there right now. I feel like everyone's nominated 3 now, or after Riley's final nomination. I think we should go into deliberation
Yeah, I think we're good for deliberations.
because
No,
we'll be
I
at
disagree.
15 games.
But we already
That's a good
discussed
number.
this when we got to 10, and we said that we weren't going to cap it at 15. So I think there needs to be the option for one more round of nominations, but only nominate something if there's something that you wanted to nominate. So, for example, I'm not going to nominate something in the last round.
All right.
I'm good
Okay.
with my choices also.
But if anybody has another one after Riley, I think
Yeah.
you should mention it just to get it there. But anyway,
fair enough,
Riley,
yeah.
what's your
Oh,
your next
we all know
nomination?
this one was coming. So and it's I don't know, it's no surprise to anyone here, but Majora's Mask is my nomination for this last one. As
I
my
believe you want to return to a previous
Oh, yes.
segue you almost used.
Adriano previously mentioned that he didn't want to use any ports or
Yeah, or remakes.
remakes or anything like that. And Matteo also mentioned during the banjo thing about how there's like in Rare Replay they make quality of life changes, and that is
Yeah,
my reason
yeah.
why I distinctly prefer the N64 version of Majora's Mask.
I kind of agree with you. Yeah, I know why.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, in the original Majora's Mask, there's a pretty big time limit, and they also only let you save in certain spots, or if you play the Song of Time and reset your progress completely. They
Yeah.
since removed that in the remake edition, so when you play the Song of Time, it doesn't automatically save your game. Which partially I know I'm very biased about this, but I remember the first day that came out, I got through about 3/4 of the game. Actually, sorry, 2 dungeons and a bunch of the side quests before I'd saved, and then I played the Song of Time to save my game, not realizing it doesn't do that in the remake, and then I lost all my progress. So I hate the 3D
Oh,
remake. And I think, in addition to that, not just from my personal grievance, I think it does take away from the whole anxiety the times that time limit's supposed to induce. I think the whole point of the time limit is supposed to make you tense when you're in the middle of the dungeon, as opposed to just going to a statue and be like, okay, everything's fine now. Because there were also a lot more statues in Majora's Mask in the remake than there were in the original.
See, and I agree with you. And this is something I didn't talk about 2 episodes ago because I was like, I'm not going to get into it. But just as a little side note to agree with you, I 100% agree with that. I agree that the ability to save or the ability to go to the owl statues from whenever kind of ruins the integrity of like the systems in place, which is why I will still stand by that the Zelda Loftwing amiibo is not a quality of life feature. It is a breaking the game feature, and that's why it's behind
I'd
an
agree with
amiibo.
that. I
And
mean, I
people
don't
who
have.
are complaining about that amiibo need to shut up. No offense, Matteo and Gino. Um,
Playing, but wait, so are you for the amiibo or against it?
I'm against it. No, I'm fine with the thing that's in the amiibo because I think that people are saying it's a quality of life feature to be able to leave because it's essentially
Oh,
thrower's win. It lets you
okay.
leave anywhere and go back to the sky and then come right back to where you are, even in
Yeah.
the middle of a dungeon. And
Which is
my
ridiculous, but
opinion on that is that the reason that that's not a quality of life change is because that's actually breaking the integrity of the game, similar
Yeah.
to like the Zelda amiibo in
Cheat.
Twilight Princess that just gives you hearts. Like it's like I wouldn't want that feature to just be available because that's not really a quality of life. That's just easy mode.
Yeah, and
Anyway,
to add on to To add on to
Go on.
what Riley was saying, yeah, the 3DS version, the one thing I hate about it, it feels like it's extreme hand holding with the Bomber's Notebook. I really wish you turn it off.
Yeah,
but-
like the journal that lets you complete, like it makes the side quest super trivial and easy because it basically tells you what to do instead of you having to piece together things yourself. Also, don't like that.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I like the original Bomber's Notebook better. Like it showed points in time that are significant to that character, but it doesn't like,
Spoil the quest.
a bomber is not gonna like a bomber kid isn't gonna like run up to you and be like, "Hey, did you forget about this? Try doing this."
Yeah.
Okay, see,
I
I never
felt like
did they
every
do that
second
in the remake?
Yeah. The
That's
remake gives you
brutal.
it like
It was
basically yeah, it outlines a lot of the side quests for you so that there's less about like discovering it on your own through observation and more like modern game kind of hand holding, like pointing you in the direction of how to get the masks.
Ooh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
definitely just reinforces my point of the original being
And they
better.
didn't put
Yeah.
as what Adriano said in the previous episode, sorry, in the Zelda
35th
episode, that they didn't put the stone mask guy in the middle of the place where the stone mask is used the best.
Yeah, I kind of like that though. I kind of like that it forces you to explore outside of the area rather than everything. It kind of made it less linear.
Anyway, let's not talk about the remake.
Why the
or
3D remake is terrible?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about why
Yeah.
Majora's Mask is great. So I think the primary selling point of Majora's Mask is just how unique it is relative to the rest of the Zelda series. I think they took an approach that was they haven't tried to replicate since, in that they made it darker. It's almost like Majora's Mask feels like it's Link having a fever dream. Everything's kind of creepier and darker than things were in Hyrule. Um, it's a lot more depressing. The basic premise is Link is Link lost Navi, he's hella depressed, and then he falls down a pit. In addition to just the overall tone and mood of the game, they put less emphasis on the traditional dungeon crawling sort of aspect and more into exploring the overworld, doing side quests, because there were way more side quests in Majora's than there were in regular Zelda games. I think aside from maybe Breath of the Wild, I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah. And but even in comparison to Breath of the Wild, like Majora's Mask side quests are very meaningful.
That's true as well.
Yeah.
Like they managed to make fetch quests. They managed to impart emotion into that, which is I find impressive. Like
I
you
would
end up,
almost no, go ahead, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say I would almost argue like it's very easy to say side quest when talking about Majora's Mask because that's what we're used to, but I'd almost argue that Majora's Mask really
The meat of the game
blurs
is
the
those.
like no it like blurs the lines between what's a side quest and what's a main quest because like really in Majora's Mask are any of those things really side quests? They're not like yes they're not essential to completing the game, but does
Yeah.
that necessarily mean they're side quests? It's like in Breath of the Wild. That's like me
Well,
saying to
yeah.
Breath of the Wild, the only like that's like me calling all the divine beasts and the shrines side quests in Breath of the Wild because technically you can beat the game without them.
That's true. Yeah. And
Right?
in
I
the
mean, I think
3DS
there's certain
version,
ones that
you
definitely
can't
have more
totally view the
quality in
credits.
Majora's Mask than others. Like the Kathy one is a big standout, but something like saving the old lady from getting robbed. Wait, actually, that one might be required. No, you don't need the bomb
Yeah, you
mask.
get a mask for it, and it
Yeah, but
unlocks.
that's what I'm saying. Not all the masks are super like unless you want like the fierce
Fierce
deity mask.
Deity.
Like not all
Yeah.
of them are super required, but
Yeah, but still, I'm just saying like I think it blurs the lines because sure, like you don't have to do them to beat the game. You don't need them to get the main plot, but you are like they do add to the experience in a way that side quests in other games don't typically add to the
that's
game
okay. Fair.
other than time and content.
Was this the beginning of the deliberation, or do we want to like officially go into it?
No, we
I
can
think
go
we
into
need to
why we think it's better than Ocarina later. Like we can.
well, I think let's just so I don't have anything further to add to this list.
Well, I have one
Matteo,
more.
do you? Okay, sure,
Um,
Adriano. Okay,
okay, Adriano.
should we go
Well,
in?
let's go in order. Let's go in order.
Okay, so Matteo, do you have anything further to
I
add?
was just gonna say, hey, like I think Mario Party 2 should also be considered as like I think Mario Party 2. I think the mini games in Mario Party 2 are better, and I just like the board design of that game. I find us going back to play 2 more often. Like, I don't know if that's just because we think 2 is better, but I personally think 2 is better. And yeah, so I just think for all the same reasons Riley said about like the whole like how Mario Party is like so integral to the experience of the N64. So
I'm amazed no one mentioned Smash Bros.
yeah,
Well,
I
there's
will.
many
I
iterations of
I
Smash
think-
Bros.
yeah, I
Smash.
legitimately think Smash 64 is unplayable, and like
I don't, but
It's
I
more
not
playable
in the
than the
sense that
second
like
version of the game.
not
All
as playable.
pissed
Like
off, Gino.
when I say not playable, I mean like it's not a multiplayer defining game on N64. Like it has been done so much better with.
yeah, it's been done better with each, with each further sequel, right? So completely understandable.
Yeah.
But
I
so
was-
yeah, I'll add Mario Party 2 then to the list, Matteo. And then how about you, Gino? Do you have anything further to nominate?
Okay. Shout out to Iggy's Wrecking Ball. I promised Justin I'd say it.
Okay, I'm not putting that on the list though. We'll keep the shout
I know
out.
it's just an honorable mention. It's just a shout out.
Okay. And then Adriano, you said you had another one to add?
Yeah, okay. So my last one, in my list, a lot of them were already mentioned by you guys, and I wanted to keep it more diverse. So my last one, I don't think they've made any sequels after it that unless there's the new mobile game, but it's actually not the same. I was really confused by it. Dr. Mario.
Dr. Mario.
Dr. Mario
Dr.
Returns
Mario.
from the Nintendo Entertainment System episode.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll have the same opinions I had back then, but it's okay. It'll be fresh for Riley and for Adriano.
Yeah, the music was so nice. Difficulty levels. It's a unique game. It's a unique puzzle game. It's different than Tetris.
Wario was playable in that game.
It was. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
Wario was you
The whole story.
that game I think was like a weird crossover between Dr. Mario and like whatever the most current Wario Land game was.
Oh my
Yeah, they had all
god.
the
I
Wario
wanna
enemies and
replay it
stuff in
now. I
it.
don't think I got that far in it, but okay, cool.
Well, just before we start deliberation, I'd like to mention that I can hear the sounds of Mario Party being played by my roommate right now, which I feel is very topical.
Is he playing Mario Party?
Yeah, it sounds like Mario Party 2 or 3 because I heard the toads. Yeah.
Oh, Chaz time.
I think he's trying to unlock everything. I think in Mario Party 3. But anyway, we
Deliberation
have
time.
17 games, which is the largest list of games we've had to do deliberation for. So what I'm going to suggest, I'm looking at the time right now, and we've actually just making this short list. We've taken quite a lot of time. So I know that there's going to be a lot of debate over some of the games that are on the short list. So I'm thinking we
Oh boy.
keep this for a part 2.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So
Oh gosh.
so what I'm going to say is I'm going to remind everybody we said we'd talk about E3 stuff. We'll save that for the part 2 because we'll probably still upload the part 2 before E3. So we'll tell you about our E3 plans in the part 2, which will come up probably in a couple days. So stay tuned for the part 2, which will be the bloodbath because we haven't talked the big topics.
Yeah, I am afraid of what's
So
going to happen.
just be
I'm very
forewarned.
afraid.
We guarantee that part 2 is probably going to be the most aggressive episode you've ever listened to, but it's all in good fun.
Yeah, we're still all friends here. We've had this argument in person while drunk before, so we're still here and we're still podcasting. So
Yeah.
please,
So,
what you're about
yeah.
to hear, just remember that there can be only one.
yeah,
We're
there
not-
can be
we're
only
not
one.
cop-
We
there
may
can
or
only
may
be
not
one.
break the F-bomb limit for
Yeah.
the next one.
Yeah. So, well, in any case, we'll say bye for now. This has been our short list of the N64 essentials. This will be episode 20. We'll actually designate the next episode as episode 20.5 because it'll still be connected, or 20
Oh, just-
part 2.
Just like
so
yeah.
Just like the Nintendo Direct episode we did way back when. But anyway, we'll talk
Yeah.
about E3.
Oh, another good plug. There you go.
Don't worry, we'll talk about E3 episodes next day. So or next in part 2. So just stay tuned for that. We want to remind you to like and comment if you have any ideas or any thoughts on our short list, what you think should make it into the top 5. Shoot a comment, listen to us on Spotify. And if you're a Gino fan, stop having opinions, especially as we move into the E3 season.
Yeah, he's
So-
not in Smash.
Yep.
He's done.
Get over it.
So, okay, so we're gonna say goodbye for now, and we'll see you in a couple days with our part 2. Goodbye, everybody.
So, yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Play those games.